Hey everyone, it's Olivia and welcome back to my channel. It is finally November, which means that it is NaNowrimo, and if you don't know what NaNowrimo is, it is National Novel Writing Month, which happens in the month of November every year. It's when writers pledge to write a novel or a series of short stories or a collection of poems or fan fiction or whatever you want to write. They pledge to write 50,000 words in 30 days, and this year I am participating in NaNowrimo. Today I am doing the Nanowrimo Tag, where I just talk a little bit about my history with NaNowrimo and what I have planned for this month. So the first question is, how many times have I participated in NaNowrimo? The first time I participated in NaNowrimo was 2016, and I have done it every year since then. So 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and now 2020. So this is going to be my 5th year doing NaNowrimo. How many times have I won NaNowrimo? I've won NaNowrimo once, and that was back in 2017, the second time I did NaNowrimo. It was actually when I came up with the idea for the novel that I am currently working on. So I've been working on it for 3 years now. So I'm really hoping to get a draft of that going. The second question is, are you a pantser or a planner? I'm kind of a mix of both, so I like to call myself a planter. I kind of plan things out, but not really. I also tend to wing things often, not just when it comes with my writing, but just like doing things in general in life. In previous years, I have just kind of dived into NaNowrimo blind, not really knowing what I was writing, without any general idea. The past 2 NaNowrimos, because I didn't really write much for those, not gonna lie, were kind of more trying to figure out plot and the general direction and character arcs that I wanted for my novel. And so because of that, this year, I spent October prepping for NaNowrimo, mostly just in my head, but I have kind of figured out the plot that I want to have for this novel. And so I have planned a little. It's not super specific, and there are a lot of plot holes and like missing parts. If you're looking at a plot graph, then there's the inciting incident. I have basically the inciting incident and kind of where the climax is gonna be, and I know how the story is going to end, so I'm kind of filling in the blanks in between there still. So I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens when I start writing. My characters tend to like come to life on the page and they kind of go in their own direction, so I'm gonna let that just happen naturally. The third question is, what are the titles of the projects that I have either completed or attempted to complete for NaNowrimo in the past? I took a look at my NaNowrimo project page on the website, and it's kind of a mess because I do NaNowrimo. I also do Camp NaNowrimo, which is a version of that where you don't have to pledge 50,000 words. You can pledge as many words as you want, which happens in April and July every year. So I've done those and I've done NaNowrimo as well. So it's just a huge like list of a mess. Like I said, I've been working on the same novel for like 3 years now. So that one kind of just has the same title, and what I'm working on is like the first book in a series of books that I'm calling the series the Living Legend series. I don't actually have a title for the actual novel that I'm working on, so it's just been called Living Legend for a while. This year I'm not calling it Living Legend because that's the series and not the book specifically, and I really want to focus on writing this book, the first book. So I don't want to call it like Living Legend 1 or anything like that, or like TBD or Work in Progress or something like that. I have decided to call it Trip for a reason, but that reason is a secret. But really it's been a trip writing this because it's been 3 years, so I'm just calling it Trip for now. It just sounds a lot more fun than saying it's a work in progress, there's no title or something like that. I'm just gonna call it Trip because personally that just fits the kind of idea that I have for this novel. Okay, the first time I did NaNowrimo was actually Camp NaNowrimo, and it was in 2016 in April, I believe, and I won that by pledging 20,000 words. That project I called The List, which sounds really cryptic and everything. I have since decided to change the title into something that's much more modern contemporary because it's a contemporary novel. So I've decided to call it Evelyn's Summer Bucket List, and you can kind of determine what that story is about based on the title. I have since abandoned that project, but I still think about it every now and then. I'm like, yeah, one day I'm gonna write that. The first time I did NaNowrimo, like officially in November, I was writing, I think it was Untitled Project. I think it's Untitled, wait, hold on. Okay, so apparently it's not on my project page, but I definitely did NaNoWrimo in 2016 because I remember what I wrote for it. So it's just something that's untitled. I don't think I actually gave it a title or a working title, but I remember it was like a fantasy contemporary novel that I want to revisit also. Just has a bunch of projects. And then since then, like I said, everything else after that was just living legend. It has different names, like I don't know. It started off as being untitled, to be titled, and then it became living legend for multiple times. And now I'm calling it Trip. That's weird that my 2016 one isn't on there. Can I still add it? I don't know, whatever. So number 4 is what are you working on NaNoWrimo for this year? So I already kind of answered this question, but like I said, I am working on a novel that I started in 2017 and have since been working on slowly. Lately, I think specifically in this year, I have figured out a lot of what I want to do with this first novel because the idea was sort of this overarching planned series of multiple books, and I didn't really know how to like start it and how to introduce the world and the characters. I had a lot of ideas that just couldn't fit into one book. So it's an Asian inspired fantasy series because why not? Let's just make all the characters Asian. Like we need more of that, like honestly. The next question is, what was the inspiration for this novel, and do you remember when you came up with this idea? It was inspired by Arthurian legend, specifically the story of the Sword in the Stone, and then it's also inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender because everything I write is kind of inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender because it's an amazing show. It's fantastic, and like I remember vividly watching it when it was airing on Nickelodeon. My sisters and I would watch it together. It's a phenomenal show, and I've watched it like a million times, and once like the internet started becoming much more abundant with its content, it was really hard to watch Avatar back then because it's like, where do you even watch this? Because like Netflix wasn't a thing, and like now it is, and I'm just like super happy that people are discovering Avatar and loving it because it's so good. That's my little tangent on how much I love Avatar. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, anyway, I don't remember the exact moment that I came up with this idea. I've always loved Arthurian legend. I've always loved Avatar. So the kind of mixing of it together was when I was watching Voltron Legendary Defender, which is also on Netflix. At the time, I really, really liked the show, and so of course I was inspired by it. If you know anything about Voltron, then I liked the idea of being chosen by some kind of magical being in order to be like a defender of the universe and stuff. I like that idea and kind of that team bonding forced together in this situation where you have to save the world. Found family is such an important theme for me, so that's really what combined all of the ideas together for me to come up with this idea for this novel. I don't really remember the specific moment, but I was in college at the time and I was in my dorm room, and that is the place where it was born essentially. So what is some advice that I would give to somebody who is participating in NaNoWrimo? I'm terrible with advice. The best advice I can give you is don't take it too seriously because NaNoWrimo is set up in this way where you either win or you lose based off of whether you make it to 50,000 words or not, and that mentality is just harmful. I don't like the idea of being like, oh, I have to win. It's not a competition. Like if it is a competition, it's a competition with yourself to see if you can just write more than you usually do. Like don't think too much about the word goal unless you are like word count oriented. Lots of people aren't, and don't focus too much on that. I would say personally for me, I participate in NaNoWrimo every year because I know there's this huge community of writers who are also attempting to do the same thing, and it makes me feel less alone. It makes me feel a little more motivated to write more because I know I'm not the only one who's doing it. My advice for people would just be to write and modify NaNoWrimo to work for you. Like if word count isn't how you view your writing, maybe it's how much time you spend on it. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just to write, to get something down on paper, then that's your goal and you should modify it to fit you because everybody writes differently and everybody thinks about their writing differently, and it's really important to know that winning or losing in a NaNoWrimo isn't what matters. What matters is just, are you writing or not? Read us the first sentence of your NaNoWrimo novel from last year. Like I said, I didn't really do much writing, but I can look that up. So I was trying to figure out the plot the most last year, so I just have a document here that's like NaNo 2019 plot. And so I have this like sentence here that's general plot. They all get involved with stopping a plot to assassinate the king. So that sentence already has changed. Like that's not the whole general plot of the novel anymore. It's changed a lot since then. Originally it was the idea that, oh, the king's gonna get assassinated and we have to stop that from happening. That has changed. What do you plan to do with your manuscript after NaNoWriMo? My goals for NaNoWriMo this year is to write every day and as much as I can and have fun doing it, but my main goal is to finally get like an official draft of the novel because it doesn't exist on paper. Like the plot and like the ideas do, but not like an actual story written out. So my goal is to write that draft, but everybody knows your first draft is always terrible. So I'm calling it draft 0 because this is like for nobody's eyes other than my own. What I'm planning to do with my manuscript, I'm planning to edit it, obviously, refine it, clean it up, fill in any holes that are there because I'm pretty sure they're gonna be there. I'm hoping that in December is when I'll be doing like the cleaning up and stuff, and hopefully by the end of the year, which is like my goal for this year, is to actually have a finished draft. I'm planning next year both Camp NaNoWriMos and NaNoWriMo to like write my second, third, fourth draft and like really clean it up, really refine it, really edit it, and then eventually I want to publish it. Like that's the end goal here, but I don't really know when that's gonna happen. So the last question is, are you prepared for NaNoWriMo and are you nervous? I'm both prepared and unprepared. I feel like mentally I'm like, yeah, let's do this, but like also my heart is like beating out of my chest because I am nervous. I'm both really excited. Like I've got butterflies in my stomach because I'm really excited to write this novel and I have so many ideas and like it's making me really excited to write. But I'm also really scared. The thing for me is that my novel mostly exists inside my own head and it makes sense in there. And first drafts are always terrible and I just can't deal with the fact that it's going to be bad. Like I hate that idea. I'm still working on accepting that your writing is gonna be bad with the first draft because it just is. That's the way things work. But I have to keep reminding myself that the first draft is simply to make your novel exist on paper, like physically in the real world and outside of your own head. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. And I think putting like that first word, first sentence onto paper or typing it out or whatever is like the scariest thing. Like just taking that first step is like super scary to me. So I just know that once I start writing and getting into the groove of things and like the flow of it, I'll keep getting ideas after ideas and be feeling motivated and inspired and I'll feel really good. So I'm just looking forward to that feeling, that little rush that I get. Everything around me kind of just disappears and it's just me and like my laptop or like my notebook and I'm just writing and the time seems to just pass by. Like I am looking forward to that and I know that I just have to get started. It's an interesting year to be doing this and honestly the fact that I've been doing it every year, NaNoWriMo just feels like almost like a feeling of coming home, a bit of normalcy in this chaotic world right now and I'm just really happy to be doing it this year. So that was the NaNoWriMo tag. Let me know in the comments below if you are participating in NaNoWriMo and what project you're working on and good luck to you, of course. If you want to do this tag, I'm leaving all the questions in the description below if you just want to copy those. Good luck to all participants of NaNoWriMo this year. You can do it. I believe in you. We've got this. We can get through this together. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you want to see more of my stuff, then make sure you hit subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when I upload because I upload twice a week on Mondays and Fridays and you don't want to miss out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!